Would you care to shed light on the chasm as just described and the two parallel streams from which a narrative originates, and whether the twain shall ever meet harmoniously? I beg your pardon?
Yes.
Between the genealogical Pakistan, the Islamic genealogical, and the political Pakistan.
Okay. But of course, in part, the genealogical Pakistan, which you had at the beginning with Muhammad's encounters and so on, that is very much a present issue rather than a past issue. Because this is something which historians are constantly interpreting, reinterpreting, and competing with each other about. So, in a sense, the chasm that you see is one that's very much in the present. As far as the political one is concerned, one thing you've left out in your presentation is the whole process of the development of Muslim separatism from the 19th century onwards in British India. And that, in a sense, is the point at which the political drives and formations are coming together, which are going to make Pakistan. So I think if one's going to start your work, one would want, first of all, to look at, to generate how Muslim separatism developed in the 19th century, a process in which some Muslims, not all Muslims, played a major role, in which Hindu revivalism played a major role, and so too did the policies of the British. So one needs to have that firmly in mind, and also to recognise that this drive, for which eventually leads to Pakistan, is also resisted by quite a lot of Muslims. It was contested by lots of Muslims. I think it's important to realize that. Not a complete answer to your question, but it might take it forward.
So, you said it was contested by a lot of Muslims. Would you like to elaborate?
Right, well, first of all, as Sir Syed Ahmed Khan was developing his Adab college and his movement, this movement was very strongly rejected by Muslims, often from the Khazbars of Awad. In fact, one of the key vehicles of this process of rejection was the satirical newspaper Adab, and which was edited by a man called Muhammad Sajjad. So there was a clear group of people who were pro-Congress, not against Congress, who rejected the way in which society was going. And I think it's very important for people now to be aware of that. The only people currently around who do keep that memory alive are the Indian Muslims, who actually need to remind people in the world in which they move that, in fact, they weren't all supporters of Pakistan, that there were significant members of this community who had supported the Indian National Congress. So people like Muhammad Ali and Shaukat Ali, Hakim Anshal Khan, Dr. Ansari, obviously Abul Kalam Azad, people like that.
Thank you. Ambassador, how would you agree or differ?
Oh, thank you very much. I'd really like to go back to the basics. What is the Pakistan narrative? What is the audience for Pakistan narrative? Acha, Abhi sunai de raha? No, this is so comfortable.
Just look at us, forget
I think the narrative we should project is that Pakistan, while being an Islamic Republic of Pakistan, is returning to the Pakistan that the founder of Pakistan had visualized. It was a country that was to be the homeland for the Muslims of South Asia. It was to be a country in which the Muslims would be able to develop their full Islamic potential, would be able to maintain their own way of life without the overlap of a dominant majority intent on imposing their own political and economic hegemony. This was not an idle fear. I go back to 1905 and the first meeting of the Muslim League in Dhaka, in which the fear was expressed that the British would leave, and then leaving was inevitable. But then you would have the Muslims being only 25% of the population and fearing that the Indian or the Hindu majority would impose their own will on them, and that how would they be able to maintain their own way of life. And I think that the guy turned from being the ambassador of Hindu-Muslim unity to becoming the founder of Pakistan only because he realized that this was the only way in which the Muslims could be able to realize, to get a homeland in which they could realize their full economic potential. I want to emphasize that I think the Qa'id was very